Are you guys ready up there? All right. All right, quiet on the set.
Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Movies. My name is Blake, and I'm hosting for this 420 edition Adventures in Movie podcast. And I'm always joined by a couple fellows here. One of them, the editor over at AIPT, movie editor, that is. And he once got so high at a Fish concert that he actually liked the music. Patrick, what's up, buddy?
Holla at your boy. What's up?
What's up? And the other fine gentleman here, an artist, and a good one at that. But once he got so high that he drew a blank. Danny, what is up, buddy?
God damn it, that was good. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Blake?
I'm doing good, man. I'm keeping it chill, keeping it real chill. Not real hype, as the kids say. I'm real chill. So
are you lit?
I'm lit. I'm always lit, and I'm lit on life these days, man. I'm trying to maintain a very high plane of existence, so to speak.
Hey, you know what? That's not a bad idea considering what's going on in the world today. I mean, we're already. It seems like we haven't been in quarantine for a long time, but I guess it has been a while. But I mean, they're already talking about reopening in different parts of this state or country of ours. So be interesting to see what happens next.
I don't get the rush out to it either. It's like it's been 5 weeks, right? I think since it was mostly for everybody.
Yeah, I mean that is a long time. It is. I'm not saying
is
it's not, but I mean, I saw the protests about we still have our rights and stuff. It's like no one took anyone's rights away. They just want you to be safe.
Yeah.
Kind of taking this a little far.
Yeah, I think it's any excuse somebody can get on a soapbox. It's just a bunch of examples of using what's at hand to your advantage, whether it be good or bad.
Do you think this would have happened? Because I mean, I blame this, because the world is shrunk. Technology has totally shrunk our world. If Corona had happened in, I don't know, the mid 80s, and we weren't all on message boards and social media stirring each other up, do you think there would be all these protests about, reopen my state? I need to go out and hang out with 50 people right now.
Yeah, in the 80s? Man, that's tough. I don't know about in the 80s. The 80s were weird because we had, I guess, the 80s had AIDS, right? That's when AIDS popped up. And that scared the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
But
I was 8 years old, and
it was Ryan White. Everybody watched that fucking documentary, and there was
I wasn't drinking from water fountains. I mean,
right. Yeah, exactly.
I still don't use the toilet in public.
I'm definitely not going to touch the blood on the toilet in the public bathroom. Yeah. I'm going to look at it, take a picture, but
share it with my friends.
No, we're in weird times. It's officially weird.
There'll be a second wave.
Yeah,
we'll be
a second wave. But anyway, so there is some news, guys. Some good news. What's up with the Last Drive-In?
Last Drive-In coming. Let's see. So we're recording on a Wednesday, so it hasn't come out yet. But you're probably listening to us on a Saturday, or if you're a subscriber, you may be listening to this during the commercials of the last Drive-In. But premieres this Friday with Darcy the Mail Girl and special guest Le Champion. Lionheart, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, Chris Jericho will be there.
Special guest Chris. I like Chris Jericho. Like I find him to be like a lovable doofus. Like he's like my older brother. I always thought was kind of a shithead, but I always liked him anyway.
I think Chris Jericho is hilarious, but people always talk about how Chris Jericho, he seems like a really smart guy. He's a smart wrestler, and I always think like that's a really low bar. Like being a smart wrestler, but he does seem like he's funny as hell though. So it'll be
funny.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for Last Drive-In. It's like definitely something I'm looking forward to. HBO Max.
Hey.
Actually, I don't know what this is. What is this?
Well, before we go into HBO Max, do you want to toot our horn?
Yeah, I completely forgot. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe Bob gave AIPT a shout out on a commercial that he did on social media. Was Us Decider and Entertainment Weekly read off an excerpt from an article that was written, and he talked about the site for quite a while. Actually, it was pretty cool. I mean, if you're, I remember watching Joe Bob from Monster Vision back in the '80s, so like,
yeah.
It was super, super, super awesome. But
was it not our very own Regina's quote? Was it?
It was Regina's article.
Yes.
Too. So yeah, she's a longtime fan of Joe Bob, and the reason she wrote the article is she actually was in a really she wasn't in a good place mentally. She had some not some good things happen at work, and she just threw on The Last Drive-In. She just was like, I just gonna watch something fun. And the article just came to her about how it, what was her line about it saving humanity, and it proves that there still are some nice things in life. So his Joe Bob helped someone's mental state for at least a couple of hours,
which is good. It's a good thing to do.
Amazing.
Hey, that's what entertainment's all about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like this HBO Max thing.
You can edit out that other part.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say we kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, and us, we absolutely bring, even if you have the temerity to give us a thumbs down on YouTube, we still do bring the chuckles and the entertainment. So we don't care, but fuck you. But
we're not hurt.
HBO Max, I was gonna ask because I don't know if you knew this, Danny, but I think you had tweeted. It was on April 1st because you asked if it was an April Fool's joke or it was. But they mentioned about releasing the Snyder Cut. I didn't follow up with that. Are they actually going to have that on HBO Max?
I think that was a April Fool's thing because I don't think that was a blue check mark. As I mentioned last time. So HBO Max is going to be a new subscription service from Warner Brothers or HBO, and everything that's owned by AT&T essentially. So if you have AT&T DirecTV, I guess DirecTV is owned by AT&T, you'll get that for free. And they'll have a slew of entertainment. So you'll have all the Studio Ghibli movies, which to me was a big shock because that's distributed by Disney. You're going to have all the Friends, the show, not your friends. You should stay 6 feet apart. You'll have all the WB superhero movies from the Snyder Batmans, or actually he hasn't done it Batman. The Snyder Justice League, all the everything
Aqualad.
else. Aqualad. All the DC superhero stuff is going to be there. You're going to have new content from Looney Tunes. So they're trying to copy the model of Disney Plus here. I still don't see
Of course, the Disney fanboy says they're trying to copy the Disney model that Netflix invented 20 years ago.
Well, I was just saying with the whole having new content from
right,
because Disney has new Mickey Mouse shorts, or they have shorts. They're trying to do this thing, but I mean, okay, I'm interested, but the only thing that's going to be exclusive to this will be brand new shows that are not going to be shown on HBO, and none of those have really tickled my fancy just yet. I think there's going to be.
I honestly, I haven't seen. What do they have coming out?
I don't. I know there's going to be a show from Reese Witherspoon, Andrew Kendrick, who I feel like Andrew Kendrick is kind of hitting every streaming service. She had that Christmas movie on Disney Plus. She had some show on Quibi. She has this thing. I'm pretty sure she's on YouTube right now doing something with YouTube.
God forbids the woman work. God forbid.
God love her work. I just feel like she's on everything right now, and I'm like, all right, let's tone it down. I like you, but I want to see less. I want
to see more of her, to be honest.
I want to go on a break. I've been too much on the Andrew Kendrick kick this past month. Thank you so much, Andrew Kendrick. And if you're listening, please give us a thumbs up.
She's not. Don't worry about it. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. It comes out at the end of May, the 20th. So it's Memorial Weekend. if the country hasn't like come up by that time, or states haven't come up open, it's gonna be a great time.
We hope so. So the Batman, apparently it's got a release date, and that's news. So what's up with that?
That's coming out June of 2021, I believe. As of right now, I
Yes.
think that's what it was. June.
Okay, so this is the first time we've got a release date for it, or this is a pushback?
I think I got
this is the first release
forward.
date. Is it a push?
It got pushed forward.
Push
So it was gonna-
forward.
Hey, he's
Yeah.
bucking the trends.
Yeah,
Ooh.
so it was going to be released.
Fuck you, Corona.
Yeah, so they were going to be coming out in October, and yeah, so then they pushed it. They moved it forward to June to make it a summer movie, and then with that, I believe with the coronavirus on all the craziness that's happening this year, Venom 2, There Will Be Carnage, gets.
I love
pushed.
the name.
I
That's a
love it
great
too.
title.
I
That's
fucking
a really
love
great
it.
title.
Gets pushed.
I like
back.
it too. And Venom's funny because I saw the name. I was like, wow, that's a cool name. And then it took me a while to realize, like, oh wait, Woody Harrelson actually comes at the end of the first one, and
He does.
that's what that's all about.
Yeah.
I like that movie, but I totally forgot about it. So
Upgrade is better. It's the same principle. Upgrade is a better movie. It's
much better,
very-
much
Yes.
better.
yeah,
Yes,
very much the
yes.
same principle. Yeah.
And same kind of looking actors too.
Very, you know what? They're like indistinguishable to me.
Yeah.
I can't tell them apart usually. But
Tom Hardy and Logan Marshall, something.
is that yeah? He's from Prometheus, right? Oh, you know what? I like Prometheus. Sidebar.
Let's stay on the sidebar because
Hey,
the
someone
first
had
time- That first time that I saw Prometheus was not a great moment.
Yeah.
And seeing it for whatever the next Alien or the Alien movie that we got,
Yeah.
Prometheus is not a bad movie. It's really good.
What's her face from Numi Rapace? Is that her Numi? Is that how you say her name? She was from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. She's awesome. I'm just I'm a fanboy of hers, so I guess that's why. But anyway, we'll talk about that other stuff later. Pat, you've been watching stuff. Tell me about Rising High.
I have been. Okay, so Rising High. It seems like it would fit into the 420 thing, but it actually really doesn't. It's it's like the German version of Wolf of Wall Street. It's about this
Achtung!
this young kid. He's penniless, and he decides to create this real estate scam. And it's cool. It's good. But it's super typical. It has the slow motion shots of parties and strippers and heavy drug use. The scam, it's pretty far fetched. I mean, it's a little too. The problem with the movie, and I enjoyed it because it's super short and has this like fast paced like German Eurobeat techno crap. Like so, it's kind of fun. Yeah. Well, yeah, except not cool.
I just pictured German Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah, there you go. And there are a bunch of pretty people in this, much like the guys from the Roxbury.
Yeah, Chris Kattan. Ooh wee.
Yeah, what a Hong Kong. It's really fast. That there's no tension because if they like, that's the thing with these like scam movies. Like the whole thing is like, is this when they get caught? Is this when they get caught? And this one, it's like after the second time you realize like. Well, it's not that they get caught; they get away with it like super easy. Like, and they tell you straight out, like the main guy, like it's not that he's really smart. He's not really clever. He's not really sneaky. He just is charming, and he can lie to you to your face, and he can just he can convince someone to give him $1 million just by talking to them. But he doesn't say anything. Like he doesn't come up with any outrageous scheme or anything. He's just that charming. So it's kind of it's not as fun as it should be. Like I mean, charm is a part of being a cat burglar or like Thomas Crown and all that. But they're also really wily and smart and sneaky, and he doesn't really have any of that. He's just a cokehead who is charming. But yeah, I mean, it's fun for
It's
what
like
it-
Limitless,
I mean,
but the drug is coke.
Yeah.
it's Limitless in Germany on cocaine, basically.
Rad.
So I got to see a couple of Netflix movies. So I saw kind of ventured into Danny's territory. I saw The Willoughbys, which is based on a children's book about a family with a titular name. But it's a animation is awesome. It's this computer animated movie, but it has these like I don't know, old school charm to it. Like there's lots of still shots. It almost has a stop motion quality to it. Like you're watching, Gumby or Mr. Bill and all that stuff.
Oh, it's kind of
But
unique. I just looked it up. Yeah, it's got a real unique look.
yeah, it's really cool. It's super cool. And the story, it's about
Oh,
the
they're all
Willoughby
ginger?
kid. That's actually part of the story.
Cool.
Like they all have grow magnificent mustaches, even the girls in the family. But
Awesome.
the current generation of Willoughbys, their parents are just horrible. So they decide, like, you know what? Let's send them on a vacation and we'll run things and we'll have a perfect life. We'll bring the family back to its former prominence. And it's kind of and then they learn about family and friends, except it takes these twists. They're super interesting. They're really like, at the end you're expecting for, the brother and the sister who kind of have this power struggle, that they're going to come together and then that they're going to overcome that. And you figure that the family that or the parents that are really mean and ignore them and treat them awful, you figure that at the end they're going to learn a lesson and the whole family's going to come to, and some of that stuff happens, but a lot of that stuff does not happen the way but it's not mean spirited. It's a really funny movie. Adults will like it. Kids will love it. The only thing that great voice acting, like it's just really good across the board. The only thing that I noticed is that there was a song that let's see, there's four kids. The daughter Willoughby, she kept singing a song, and that's the song that they really wanted to get over. It just wasn't catchy at all. So, like, not at all. But I mean, the movie is great. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really cute characters, which is important for that kind of movie. Like, memorable characters, and every single character, like, super super fun. So I really enjoyed it.
It's visually funny to me, so like it makes me want to watch it just because it looks cool. It looks funny.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the time. Definitely. Like, I was surprised. I was kind of thinking it would be really generic, kind of like I thought it would be fun, but nothing too great. But yeah, it was really good, really, really, really good.
Is this out already?
Let's see. I think it came out on Wednesday.
Okay, cool. The 22nd.
Oh, was that today?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that's my days because I watched it like a couple of days back, and then I saw Circus of Books, which is a documentary about a family, a Jewish family, who they live in California and West Hollywood in the 60s. If you know what West Hollywood means in the 60s, and you kind of already know what direction this is going to go in. But it's a family that runs a bookstore. They're a normal family. Their kids go to a Bible study. Everything seems cool. The bookstore is actually a hardcore gay porn shop.
Nice.
The store starts just selling like Hustler magazine. They kind of expand to selling Hustler and gay magazines, and then they expand to becoming the hardcore gay porn production company in the world by the 80s.
Wow.
But they're just living this life. Like, they're just normal people. Like, you would not give them a second look if you walked by them on the street, and they don't tell their friends about it. Their kids kind of, in high school they pick it up for sure, but like they never outright tell the kids what's going on there. It's good. It's interesting. The stuff about the store is super interesting. The wife, she interviewed like Larry Flint back in the day, because she was a journalist before she got into the store.
Wow.
So she had interviewed a lot of people. It's interesting to watch her when she's older, because they go on a visit with her when she goes to like a convention where they sell adult toys, and she's like picking out what to sell in the store and stuff. And she talks about how, she's actually not cool with overt sexuality at all. Like, she hates pornography. Oh, it's kind of interesting to watch her to go and shop for like dildos and cock rings.
Man, I worked in a porno shop for a very short period of time, and it's a very unique experience. You see every walk of life, and you would be totally surprised by what people are into. I'll just say that. Don't ever judge a book by its cover.
They kind of get into it. They briefly get in, and that's one of the issues with the documentary. It's super interesting, but it does get a little bit all over the place. It's when it deals with the history of the store, really interesting. When it touches on the family, especially the Masons, the husband and wife, very, very interesting. The documentary is directed by the daughter. There's two sons and a daughter. It's directed by the daughter. And it starts showing a bunch of home videos, like shot on a camcorder. And I think that's the vibe she was going for. But what happens is when they're talking about the store, there's a lot of informational, like there's interviews with Larry Flint, like multiple interviews with like talking heads on there. And so it's very informational and to the point. And then it'll kind of all of a sudden segue to her like asking her dad, like, oh man, in the 80s, it was crazy with AIDS. Like, do you know of any porn stars who died? And it's super clumsy, you know? It's like a weird, yeah, it kind of throws it off. She does right the ship towards the end, but at that point, they're on a totally different topic. If they had stuck with just the story, I think it would have been much, much better. It was good as it was, don't get me wrong, but a little bit all over the place. And then I saw the second season of, I saw the first 2 episodes of the second season of What We Do in the Shadows. Hilarious. If you, it picks up from where the last season left off. I guess I won't get too much into spoilers, but anyone who watched the first season remembers that Guillermo, the familiar,
Danny.
Dan, his whole dream was to become a vampire, and he's kind of disenchanted by how he's being treated at the end of the season. And he learned something about his family history that's a huge twist, and it's incredibly shocking to him. That story continues along with problems they've had with the vampire council because they were sentenced to. They had a pretty tough sentence that they got out of, and the vampire council is pretty pissed off about that. So it's kind of continuing from there. And the first 2 episodes are they're really funny. It's just a silly show, but yeah, it's good. It's really good. So
I'm glad you reminded me of it. Definitely gonna finish it up now and continue.
It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. The final thing I wanted to talk about is, and I've talked about this 3 weeks running, but I am absolutely fascinated by The Sopranos. Like, and I don't mean like quality wise. I mean quality wise, it's great. But this show is, last week I talked about the trippiness of it and stuff. Like, I've watched I don't know how many episodes in the past couple of days, but I've seen an episode that had just randomly subtitles would be in it. I saw an episode with talking fish in it. I saw an episode that started with Tony Soprano on the floor and then proceeded to play backwards. I saw episodes with weird, like that, what is it, fisheye lens shots and vending machines going crazy. Like, this show is, no, it fascinates me how the stuff that it does. One episode, every like 20-25 seconds, it would cut like it was going to a commercial. Like, it would just cut to black all of a sudden, which, without getting too much into spoilers, like, that's, if you're a fan of The Sopranos, then that probably isn't that impressive to you. It might even piss you off to think about it cutting to black. But it's just a crazy, crazy show. And like the mob stuff is it's the acting is great, story is great, super sad. Some of the stuff that happens incredibly funny. But I don't like using this word, but it's a really artsy television show.
What season are you on?
I just started season 3. Now I'm like halfway through season 3. I think, what's her name? Janice, Tony's sister, is up to her old schemes after she had to go on the lam for a while. But yeah, the season 2 finale is just, it's bonkers with crazy dream sequences, and that's the one with talking fish and people floating in the air and Tony Soprano lighting himself on fire after dousing himself in gasoline, and a woman with one leg having her leg stolen. It's just a weird, weird show. I'm sure there's people who have written about the strangeness of this show, but I mean, it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, that's nothing new. Everyone's talked about it. It's like one of the greatest shows ever. Whatever.
When was the last episode? That was a while ago now.
It was a while back, yeah.
2012, maybe.
Holy shit! Like, God, that seems like it was yesterday.
You, like, yeah, it's crazy, and like this like I remember it as being this mob drama that was pretty funny, and it was very violent, and I remember dream sequences and flashbacks, but I don't remember it being to the level that it is. Like, there's episodes there. I mean, the season 2 finale, it takes you a while to realize what's real and what's not. There's all these there's these clues that it gives you throughout the episode with the subtitles. I have no idea what was going on there. Like, it would just randomly have subtitles when people were talking. I have no idea. One episode had this weird mix of the police with spy music, like James Bond type music in it. Like, it's just a strange show. It's
how far are you till the end? How close are you to finishing it?
Like halfway through it. It's only 6
halfway
seasons.
through. Oh, okay, all right. We'll get to the end when you get to the end. I want to talk about it again.
Yeah, the end. I remember the ending very well because, yeah, Regina's like never watched the show at all. So
Oh shit.
all this is first time for her. And there's stuff that like there was an episode with I totally didn't remember that there was an episode with a pretty violent rape in it, and I did not remember that episode at all. So I guess I'd never seen it before, but it has just weird angles and like kind of uncomfortable close-ups and weird zooms and that has a crazy dream sequence with a with a vending machine going mad, kind of like Maximum Overdrive. Like
Sweet.
it's all about the mind and everything. So I guess it does make sense, but the show is just I didn't remember it being like that, but it's super good. But I mean, I don't have to recommend The Sopranos. I think everybody on the planet has recommended Sopranos.
I haven't seen The Sopranos yet, and every time that you talk about it, I feel like I need to get on this train. I know this is very classic show, and it's what essentially changed television. But man, like you talk about it with like so much like love, and now I feel like, man, I'm just fucking wasting my time watching like boring ass TV.
Oh, speaking of love, and I forgot. I did watch one. Speaking of love and HBO shows, so I saw the finale of The Plot Against America, and it's good. It's only 6 episodes, so I won't get too much into it. But I'll just leave it at on PlayStation. They have an ad for HBO now, and the ad that they have on there, it has 2 things on it. It's they're both David Simon shows. It has The Plot Against America, which is his most current thing, and they have The Wire, which is like the greatest thing that's ever been on that channel or any channel ever. So,
Right.
But The Plot Against America, it's up there with that. It's some of his better stuff. It ain't The Wire, but then what is, right?
What is, you're right. Yeah, that's another thing I'm probably gonna just like kind of like slowly get into. But things that I finally finished. It's so weird. Like quarantine, like just kind of like everything kind of like rolls on. And this is a show that came back in March. I talked about it last week. Dollface, starring Kat Dennings and a bunch of like her female friends. I really liked this show a lot. I thought it was a really, really fun, quirky show. And I shouldn't insult it by saying quirky. It's a really well-made show where it shows you how it is to be a modern feminist and how to be friends when you kind of lost connection. As I mentioned last week, you don't really see these kind of roles like with these like women, like these very like powerful women, and you usually get this kind of like a guy in a breakup type of thing. And,
What about Designing Women?
I've never seen that. What is that?
Oh, bro, Delta Burke.
Delta Burke, like she rules that place with an
Oh
iron
my
fist.
god, 3 snaps
Really?
in a circle for Delta Burke.
No, I've never seen this. No.
You're welcome. Let's just say you're welcome ahead
all
of
right.
time.
I will write that down right now. This is a show that I can see with my girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Oh yeah. And there's multiple seasons.
It's
You're in
like
for a treat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an 80s CBS comedy. Like you can watch it with the family. Like there's no.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It was like an evening sitcom. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be like what women want with no
Skinamax type thing.
Yeah. So I
No,
was
no,
like,
this
It's
is
like the
like,
Golden Girls, but not in California or Florida. It's like yeah.
It's
like
like the Deep South.
Deep South. It's like it's Georgia. I think they're in Atlanta.
I believe
Oh.
it is Georgia. Kind of on a plantation.
Uh-huh.
But it's modern. It's in like I don't know, 87, 88 or something.
No,
that.
it's like of the time. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's
cool.
it's
I'll
up there.
definitely-
It's funny. It's
fucking
funny.
funny as shit.
I will check this out. I'll definitely check this out.
No
I
idea I'd be talking
double-
about that show today. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I was actually just joking, but no, it is kind of it's an overlooked gem from the
It
time.
really is.
Oh, okay, I see.
Oh,
And I-
the
and I feel-
blouses. Oh.
like, this is a funny thing. Like I've been like with the fashion in the show. I usually like me and my girlfriend talk about it, and it's like very well. The show is very fashion forward as well. So there's a lot of times that I'm just like, hey, that's a really nice shirt, and it's I don't know. It's of the times, obviously, the show Dollface, and I would recommend it. It's a very smart show. It does talk about like the actual definition of feminism, which it's just treat people good. Next thing that I watched, actually, it's the start of the feminist movement, and that is like, have you heard of Miss America, starring Kate Blanchett, Rose Byrne, so many fucking people in this show that I just remember the two marquee names. and this is the start of it, and it's through the eyes of a conservative woman trying to stop the women's movement, and it's so fucking catty, like between these two, like obviously opposing forces, but it's so fucking mind-boggling, and so many things are like that we kind of like moralistically stand on now. It's just like,
Which side had better hair?
oh, these beautiful conservative women.
Was it nice and big?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them were like Rose Byrne's character. Shit, I forgot her name. Gaiman, I think. It's kind of like frizzy and a little bit puffed out, and I'm like, all right, this is fine.
Sweet.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's the death of the innocents, like right after that. So it is pretty fucking like jarring to watch this show, especially I don't know if you like seeing these things, like, you know, they're saying like, you know, before you know it, they're gonna be having unisex restrooms, and they're gonna be wanting like abortions like everywhere, and like they're just fighting for their fucking rights, you know, like all this time, like it's been fucking 100 years now that women have been fighting for their fucking rights, and it's still the same fucking like problem, and it's just mind fucking boggling. It's really, really fucking good. I really enjoy the shit out of this show. It comes out on FX. Now that I think I'm just gonna watch something that, along with What We Do in the Shadows, so I could be like, all right, cool. Now I need to get really serious about history. And then I started watching Run on HBO.
Oh, Domhnall Gleeson and the girl.
Mirit. I think that's how you pronounce her
Yes,
name. Mirit.
yes.
Have you
Yes.
seen this?
No, but I know it looks interesting. It actually looks pretty
yeah,
good.
I've seen the trailers for it. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
So that, like, while watching Dollface, this ad came out a lot. It's what caught our attention. From what I gathered, because there's only 2 episodes so far, so I'm really with it right now, like with being caught up with shows. This is a woman that has kind of like a boring life, and she gets this text message from somebody she knew when she was younger, and then they meet up in New York and go on a train ride. And essentially, that's the premise of these 2 episodes. But between Domhnall Gleeson and Marie, Marie, the girl, Marie Weaver, there's so much fucking tension. Like, you could feel like how horny they are for each other, and it's fucking great. Like the acting between these 2 actors is fucking great. The tension's really, really good. There's like, I feel like there's so much sexual tension that I just want every single episode. I'm just yelling, "Fucking kiss and fuck already," because I can't fucking take it anymore. It's
My hand is so tired.
yeah, exactly. It's really, really, it's a very interesting show. I want to see where it goes.
They better go to the fucking fuck shack.
Yeah, fuck yeah, for sure. I want them to fuck hard, and lovingly, but
Passionately.
yeah, passionately, yeah, sure, passionately, fucking hard. But I think that's the only thing that's really carrying me so far is the interest in the show and the sexual tension between the 2 main characters. It's just I don't know. Usually by the 2nd episode you kind of have an idea where it's going, but even the trailers like kind of like don't give you too much, or so I'm just here week
By
by
the trailers, it's 2 horny people on a train that are definitely like attracted to each other.
yeah,
That's all
exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you like seeing horny people being attracted to each other, definitely, definite fucking record.
I worked in a call center for a long time. I saw a lot of that.
I was gonna say, speaking of working in a porno shop.
Yeah. And then we were watching weed movies throughout the week, and I was like, you know what, I want to watch a fun movie. Not that the weed movies we were watching were not fun, but this, I just wanted to kind of like a change of pace a bit. So I introduced my girlfriend to The Nice Guys, starring, I can't remember his name, and Ryan Gosling.
Welcome Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about that, Russell Crowe. And thank you, Blake.
You're welcome.
It's a neo-noir film, and I just enjoy this film. I don't know if you guys seen this movie?
Oh, I love it. It's like super overlooked. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea how not everyone in the world is evil. This is a great movie.
Yes, it's really, really great. It has a really good, just a little story to follow through. The loopholes not the loopholes, but the loops it takes you. It's a very fun ride. There's very unexpected things. My girlfriend, when a certain plot line or plot happens, she was like, "Oh, I was not expecting that." And I feel for a noir film, it kind of changed the rules a little bit. So I we don't really we kind of missed out on like some of our favorite noir films, and I want to put that in like a very high list of neo-noir films. But the acting between Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling is really, really good as well. They have a really good chemistry. Speaking of chemistry, where you could see how much impatient Russell Crowe is with Ryan Gosling's character. It's really, really good, just character acting on both parts. And then the last thing I watched is what everybody's been watching since Sports Are Gone. To quote a friend, to quote our friend Pablo, he was horny for this content.
He was.
I'm just gonna say this right now. That is my word for today: horny content.
It's just like Gibby's Playhouse.
Yeah. And yeah, the first 2 episodes came out on Sunday on ESPN. If we have international listeners, holler. But you guys get it on Netflix. If not, you have to hunt it down like some skeevy person, which I did. So I have a first question here. I know Pat doesn't pay for cable anymore. Do you still pay for cable, Blake?
No, I do not. I haven't for years.
Okay, cool. So there's so many different ways to fucking get this show, and either you do the bootlegging, renting it, which I don't recommend, but this show's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks on Netflix, and I think this is probably one of the best things. Now, I'm not the biggest sports fan. That's why I think before the show I asked you if you've seen it, so I could kind of like carry along with this conversation, but this is going to be very Danny, like non-watch sports. Everybody grew up with Michael Jackson.
Oh God, here we're off to a great start.
Yeah, I know, right? Michael Jordan, MJ, the airness, his airness,
His airness.
and it is the first episode is about essentially him growing up, how he got to the Bulls, and we are introduced to the vilification of Jerry Krause.
Jerry Krause.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we get this the last year of the Bulls with the MJ, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. We get introduced to all the players and the general manager, and it's just like this whole headbutting, and it's very interesting on how you get Michael Jordan to be who we've always known to be, this fucking great player, and everybody's just like saying how determined, hardworking he's always been, and that how he butted heads. And this is something I never knew, especially because I never really researched more than what I already saw up front with Michael Jordan and the 90s Bulls. And this is like this world shattering like thing, and the way that this documentary is, or docuseries is, it's just really well made. It's like I feel like it's made from the 30 for 30 people. And then the second episode, it's about Scottie Pippen and how he's always been like the number 2 player for Jordan. And it's funny that the second episode highlights that, and it just
everyone calls that the worst episode. The people that have seen all of it, they're like, "Not the second episode's boring."
It's just, it doesn't go anywhere. And the thing is that like in the middle of the whole episode, it focuses on like Michael Jordan's childhood. And it's just weird, like taking the limelight from Scottie Pippen, who had probably the worst deal of NBA history. Like,
Oh,
he was
the worst deal? That fool had the best deal. Yeah, he did quite okay. He had the greatest deal. He got to play with Michael Jordan and win multiple. People thought he was great. Like,
and he was a great defender. He was an amazing defender.
Well, I mean, I just feel like monetary wise.
Oh, monetary. Well,
monetary.
Yeah, I mean, that's on Pip.
Yeah, that's his fault. He should have gotten a better agent because Jordan was woefully underpaid, and he's a billionaire.
You know what they showed though? They Pip and Jordan made not too dissimilar money for most of their careers together. It was only the last 2 years Jordan was there that he was making like $30 million, and Pip was making like the same he always made. Which it sucked. But then as soon as Jordan split, Pip went and got paid by Portland and Houston. So it's like
Houston.
Yeah, I don't want to hear Pip complain.
I have no pity for Scottie Pippen. I wish I had that guy's luck.
Yeah.
Play with Michael Jordan, shit.
Well, yeah,
worst deal ever. You don't know sports. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's like the way that the show like is saying it, like it's monetary wise, like 18 million for 7 years is it's the worst thing. Yeah,
I'll take it. Shit, but I mean, all right, I'll take it.
40
Well, that's what my girlfriend was saying. Like like at 18, you have this 18 million up front. You're not gonna take it. Like it's gonna be there, but now 7 years later, you have 5 championships under your belt. Why aren't you not asking money? And I'm there with you. Like, all right, he played with Jordan. He played with 2 other teams afterwards. But at the time, he's still not like he's even like holding out like by doing like his. And I thought that was kind of like petty, I guess. Like he had an injury, he didn't like get it ready by summer, so he's doing it like during the season, and then he's like, what, I want to be traded out.
I'll tell you what though. So it's interesting to hear this perspective because as somebody who was a diehard Michael Jordan fan growing up, like paid every bit of attention to this, like you're talking about, like I was there. I remember all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, that shit was in the news. It was definitely in the news.
Yeah,
nobody fucking gave a rat's ass about fucking Scottie Pippen or any of the rest of those guys. It had everything. It was just Jordan, dude. Jordan was he was the dominant political or sports figure in the world, and by a wide margin, nobody ever cared about those guys.
And I see that, and I see it too, like the way that how the documentary like goes back to Jordan, like for a good portion of that episode, like okay, we heard Pippen's story. Now let's move on to Jordan's what is this, childhood? Yeah, we'll talk about the childhood right here. And they talk about his late father. They just go on, and it's very interesting, like to see how Jordan grew up. And I feel like, again, because you only this is a nostalgia kind of watch for me, but not knowing I was fucking watching fucking cartoons and playing with toys in the fucking 90s. Yeah, Jordan was fucking there, and yes,
also
I had
in 2020.
Exactly, yeah. I'm not follow. I mentioned this many times before. I don't follow basketball for the 110% of the time. So these names to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, recognize that. Like when I recognized Steve Kerr, I was like, oh yeah, that's the coach and I was like, for that team.
Yeah, dude, that's my favorite player growing up. Like I love Jordan, but like Steve Kerr was because he was like a white dude that shot threes, and that's what I was.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't want to go down low, man. I want to jack it up from outside. So I love Steve Kerr. Yeah, dude. I've always that entire team. It's actually they've all gone. BJ Armstrong's like a really high executive in the NBA now. There's a lot of those guys that they went on to do cool stuff.
Yeah. Either way, I really do. If you haven't, or if you don't know that much about the last year of the Bulls, I think this is a really well documented show. And it's ESPN, and I honestly feel like if you don't have ESPN Plus, and you don't have all the 30 for 30s, I highly recommend watching this show. Catch it on Sunday nights. There's 2 hours. What are you doing? Like honestly, it's a very good show. And yeah, that's all I say. And you will hear more of my Michael Jordan adventures next week here on what is this? Adventures in Movies.
Adventure in Movies. So I watched. I'll start with Unsolved Mysteries. I've been watching a lot of Unsolved Mysteries.
Nice.
Yeah, and like kind of same era, 1989 is when it started. I went to the way back and started back then. And I don't have to talk a lot about Unsolved Mysteries. Robert Stack, eerie theme song, mysteries. They talk unsolved ones. But it's cool. Actually, it's a perfect background noise, and it's also like when it gets intriguing and you pay attention, they do such a good job of telling the story, which is always interesting. But I do crack up on some of the reenactments that you
are
see.
hilarious.
Oh my god, they can be so. It's like, where the fuck did they find these people? I love it. Like I want to know where this casting department was. And then the other crazy thing about like the ones in like 1989, they'll be like talking about like mysteries from like 1920, and they'll be like, well, let's talk to her. Like there's this old lady. It's like, holy shit, that old lady's still alive. And like they're talking to her about it. But it's pretty entertaining. I would definitely, and I think Amazon Prime has like every bit of it on streaming if you have the Prime service. So definitely check that out. It's a great expenditure if you want to watch something. And then I watched. So this just released. I've talked about. I've been a big gamer my entire life, and man, I don't know if any game caught my attention when I was 10, quite like Mortal Kombat did. Danny, I know you're a big gamer. Pat, you too. How far back do you go with Mortal Kombat? Because I remember going down to the Big 8 and Fabens to play the arcade down there. They had Mortal Kombat 1. Like
Yeah.
I would go down there to play it.
I'd go to Lower Valley.
I remember
Laundromat.
I remember I would walk home from school from H.E. Charles, and there was a Circle K on the way there, and they had 2 games there. The ones that I remember the most are they had the 4-player Turtles in Time one, and eventually they got the Simpsons one, and maybe I got the order mixed up, but that's the first time I ever saw Mortal Kombat 2. And I remember, getting out from school at whatever 3:30 and being there till like, and there'd be a crowd of kids there, just watching people play like 6 o'clock, 6:30, and just wanting to see the fatalities and being amazed when they'd knock people off the bridge. And it was just the craziest thing I had ever seen. I'm not into fighting. I wasn't into fighting games then, and I'm not into them now because I'm just not good at them. And it's no fun to constantly get your ass beat.
True.
But man, I really love watching it. And Mortal Kombat was, it was something else. It was good fun.
That was super it. Danny, did you I know you had some consoles and stuff too. Were you a big console player of Mortal Kombat? I definitely was. Mortal Kombat 2 in particular.
Mortal Kombat 2 for the NES, Super NES was I think the one that I had, and I think it wasn't until I think we played Mortal Kombat together on the PlayStation 4. That was the last time that I played it. Yeah. Like, so what was that? Mortal Kombat X?
Yeah, I think it was Mortal Kombat X.
That was the last one I owned. And then I think I sold it because I was like, I don't have other people to play with, and I'm terrible online. So
it's just so hard.
Yeah, fuck yeah, for sure.
At least I'm not losing fucking $6 anymore. The motherfuckers whooping my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, same. Totally grew up with it. I even have it on my Switch. I have Mortal Kombat 11 or whatever it is, and I probably played it like twice. But super nostalgic to me. And so there's a movie out straight to streaming services. I think you can buy it right now. It's called Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge. And so one of the most iconic characters, obviously, from the entire series, I think he's been in literally every iteration, is the character Scorpion. And he's always, one of the things I've always liked about it is how ridiculous and over top the actual quote unquote story is to this thing. And Scorpion's always had like the cool one, like, oh, his family gets murdered. He and his family get murdered, and he's like basically like Ghost Rider. He's like coming out of hell, bat out of hell. It's a secret revenge. Right. And so it's always been the same case. They've always just kind of added on that as the story goes on each game. And so this movie is kind of like, all right, it's a whole telling of that. But with all the characters you could possibly imagine that they've added throughout the years, they kind of make this homogenous. Okay, well, now here's with all this other stuff we've added. Now here's the original origin story. Yeah, and they go out of their way to make it like the game, which I thought was cool. So like in the modern game, like there's like the X-ray hit. So like when they do something brutal, like it'll like flash to like an X-ray of like the person's jaw getting shattered to a million pieces and stuff like that. They totally do that in this movie. It's a cartoon animated show and or movie, and they incredibly violent. No, anybody who's like, they probably toned down the violence. No, it's incredibly violent, completely over the top violence, just like what you'd expect from a modern Mortal Kombat product. And kind of had it on in the background, not gonna lie. I didn't really pay too much attention to it while it was on, but a feast for the eyes, and kind of an interesting way to combine all this stuff over the years. And go Go ahead. Somebody was saying something?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm sorry. It has a great voice cast already.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. It has incredible. Johnny Cage is Joel McHale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, it's really cool. And then Jennifer Carpenter is Sonia, who Sonia barely talks in it, but okay, get Jennifer Carpenter to do that. But yeah, Joel McHale is pretty hilarious. Johnny Cage is such a dipshit character.
It has Kevin Michael Richardson, which is the voice of like Darth Vader in other media and like in cartoon media.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Oh. And then Steve Bloom, who is the voice of Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
Is that right? No, yeah, he's a Sub-Zero, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. No, it's got all the hits. It's got all the hits. It's got a cameo from old Shao Kahn there at the end. If you're a fan of Mortal Kombat, you're really gonna like it. Trust me.
I am so down for this.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And then the other one, which is a completely shameless segue into our main topic, I watched. I guess it's called Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke, but it's just Up in Smoke.
Up in Smoke.
Up in Smoke, which I think is from 1977, 78. 1978. And man, I guess Cheech and Chong they'd released multiple albums by this point of their comedy. And this is kind of just a bizarre mishmash of scenes. It's like they have a loose story. It's like, okay, there's these two burnouts and they kind of run about town trying to score weed is predominantly the whole thing. And there's these cops that get involved. And ultimately, absolutely still hilarious. This is probably, that's why I kind of move stuff around here. The very first true stoner movie I ever watched was this, Up in Smoke. And so, I mean, that was probably when I was like 12 or something, 10, 11, 12. And completely holds up. It's still really funny. A lot of the jokes are still, I mean, they're just dumb. It's just dumb stoner humor. And there's just something about that that's always held up really well. So, yeah, that's what I checked out. What's y'all's first stoner movie, maybe?
Oh, man, first stoner movie.
Yeah, I've mentioned Pink Floyd's The Wall. I think that might be my first stoner movie, but like you have to be stoned for it. Like, I don't know, like if you mean like a stoner comedy, like with that shit like Up in Smoke. Like I can't really remember. Maybe like something with Bill Murray, like Stripes.
Well, if
maybe
you get away from or in Caddyshack, no, yeah, but
Caddyshack.
Yeah, if you get away from like getting away from the Cheech and Chong stuff, because that was like the first stuff for sure that's just outright, we're gonna get fucked up on weed. The first one that if it's not Fast Times at Ridgemont High with Spicoli, then and that's not even the whole thing, then it would probably be Friday, to be honest with you.
Really? Well, it would be. I was thinking probably when you guys would say, oh God, it's complete. Matthew McConaughey. All right.
Dazed and Confused.
Oh, Dazed and Confused. Yeah.
I think Dazed and Confused came later because I saw Friday first.
Friday? No way.
No, Dazed and Confused is before Friday. It's a few years before Friday.
But the way I saw it, because my dad was so my dad forced me to watch Friday because he was like, "Oh, this is like Cheech and Chong," and I'm like, "Okay." I didn't know, so I think I watched one of the Cheech and Chong like movies, and then I watched Friday. And my dad's like, "See, this is like just racist thing here." And I think that's the way I really like remember seeing Cheech and Chong and like Friday, like, and then like as a teenager, like way more, I saw Dazed and Confused. So like that's why.
Well, for me, like there's a big gap between Cheech and Chong and Friday, because I really don't like stoner movies. I don't get Cheech and Chong movies they're funny, but for the most part, like I can't even think of any right now because I don't really get the humor. I mean, I get it, but it's just not funny to me. So it wasn't until I saw that, and I'm sure there might have been something in between there, but because in the 80s, whenever someone would smoke weed, it would just be ridiculously over. Like they'd see colors and stuff, like they were on LSD or something. So the first time I saw, I guess, a legit weed movie that wasn't a Cheech and Chong movie that I actually did enjoy, I'm thinking it was Friday. It might have been Dazed and Confused. Yeah, that's a weed movie. I didn't. That one always.
Yeah.
It always. I think of the kid.
The whole Martha Washington packed him a bowl. That's a good wife. Or yeah.
Yeah, all that. But how I remember that movie is the kid trying not to get paddled, and then Matthew McConaughey saying, what I like about high school girls is as I get older, they stay the same age. I remember.
I see Dazed and Confused as a coming of age story more than a weed movie though. Like that's
But it's like definitely
but...
like a burnout stoner fucking like your burnout stoner crowd in high school was definitely like a fan of Dazed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Even like The Big Lebowski afterwards is to me that's more of a mystery and character study. But I mean, like stoners love that movie.
Totally, yeah. I think there's a whole slew of movies that aren't necessarily revolving around drugs or being a pothead that are total pothead movies. Like you know what I mean?
For sure.
Well, there's for me when last week you were like you just put weed as a movie. So the first thing I thought of was I thought of two movies. I thought Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back because the first time I saw that movie I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen. But at the time I kind of liked all that insider stuff. Over the years, I kind of started disliking humor that was way too inside. Sure. Like you kind of, if you're on the outside, then it's really hard. And all the movie references and all that, like if you're just a casual person, there's no way you can enjoy that movie. There's absolutely no way you can. No, the other movie I thought of, which I think, and it's more recent, but I think it will hold up over the same amount of time, is This Is the End. And that's with, Danny McBride and James Franco and Michael Cera.
Wouldn't have thought of that.
And those dudes are, those are the Pineapple Express guys, right? So like... Yeah. This Is the End, I think, is hilarious. And, it starts within, 90 seconds if they roll their first joint. Mm-hmm. And the first, 15 minutes is them just smoking out and listening to the Backstreet Boys. But it's also a really, really funny movie. It's actors playing themselves.
Yeah.
It's the end of the world. I mean, just Danny McBride's great in it when him and James Franco are arguing, and James Franco is talking about like, I forgot what Danny McBride wants to do. He wants to burn some of James Franco's paintings or something for heat. And James Franco's talking about the value, and Danny McBride tells him like, "You got that Green Goblin money, motherfucker." That one's really, really good. I like that.
Yeah, I think there's like definitely a delineation between like the true blue stoner movies, and like some of them definitely hold up better than others. Like some of the ones that come to mind, like I Half Baked was like I went to go see that before I knew what weed was. Like I was like a kid, we snuck in and we watched it and we all laughed at the jokes, but like none of us we didn't know why we were laughing at the jokes.
I don't think that held up well.
It does not. That was exactly what I was about to say. That movie doesn't hold up well at all. But I would say like Friday, it's still a fucking funny movie to me. I still like Friday. There's a couple though that I still to this day, and I've mentioned it before. Like my college days, we spent a lot of time sitting around watching stoner movies. For one reason or the other. Okay, and so there's one that is truly, and I've seen it not that long ago. And it's still just so fucking funny to me. Method Man and Redman.
Oh, how high?
How high?
I've been wanting to watch that movie for the longest time.
Have you ever seen it?
Yes. Like I feel like because there's a How High 2.
Yeah, it just came out. It's not got good reviews.
Okay, yeah, I'm like, no, just give me How High.
Not like how High, which was critically loved. I'm sure.
Oh shit, dude! But Method Man and Redman go to Harvard. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the Rockweiler.
They fucking put their friend's ashes in a weed plant that gets people extra high. Dude, it's iconic. It is and it is truly fucking hilarious to this day. I mean, those guys actually have really good chemistry.
Yeah, they do. Well, they're cousins, so.
Are they really? Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Redman's an unofficial member of Wu-Tang Clan, but what's it called? Speaking of iconic moments in I think it's the first Scary Movie, where it's
those are
one of the Wayans brothers. Yeah, they're smoking weed and the killer has the mask on.
Oh yeah, and it gets all high.
The face change.
Yeah. Well, and then there's a whole moment where there's like a triffid weed plant that rolls up the one dude and smokes him.
He smokes the dude. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Oh my god.
Pineapple Express is like I think the
Oh,
quintessential
Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore.
and that like Danny McBride. I know I mentioned so him and Seth Rogen have a great chemistry, but I love the scene where they first and I believe Seth Rogen is like he delivers warrants, doesn't he? Or
Yes.
notices, I think.
Yeah.
He serves
Or like a collection serves people. Yes, he serves people, and he's talking to Danny McBride, who's a dealer, and he's just in his robe or whatever. And Danny McBride's like, "Hey man, you gotta chill out." He's like, "What are you wearing there?" And Seth Rogen tells him a suit, and Danny McBride just looks at him and goes, "Kimono, dog." Like stuff like that is like I like. If you're not high, it's funny, but I mean, if you're stoned, it's probably fucking hilarious.
That movie starts item 9. Oh, everyone's got to try item 9. Like that movie's literally laugh out loud funny through the entire thing. There's so many. I was talking about Strange Wilderness. That's another pretty funny one. But Grandma's Boy definitely on the list of just ridiculously dumb stoner comedies.
Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Harold and Kumar. Yeah.
Harold and Kumar, the first one is so funny, and then the Guantanamo Bay one is so bad.
I don't know what happened there, like at all. But
just totally. But the first one is great.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's funny now, but when it came out, it was as serious gets. But Reefer Madness is so good. I mean, I know that they have. All kinds of riff tracks and MST3K stuff for it, but just watching it as a standalone film it's so funny to see the perception of marijuana back in 1929 or 1930 or whenever that was.
I think the 40s or 50s. Yeah,
it's so hilarious, and it has the whole the guys. I'm thinking the most famous part is the guy gets high and people are talking and he just goes, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up."
And then there's the one girl who just can't stop laughing. So it's she's got the Reaper hysteria. That's a whole era of that kind of and now you find that shit in the stoner section of the rental movie store, which exists now, right? People still go.
Yeah, they do.
Boy, that just dawned on me as I was saying that. I was like, actually, there's no sections for that anymore at all.
No.
You have an interesting topic on here though, Pat. Appeal to non-pot people. That's an interesting thing. I never really thought about that. Can you think of something that is a stoner movie that would appeal to other people? I can think of one.
The only one we already discussed is Friday, but then stuff like Your Highness, which is straight up, it's a pun on being.
Ridiculous.
And that movie, unless you want to see Natalie Portman, bathing under a waterfall.
That movie sucked.
It just it didn't work for me at all. I had no interest in seeing it, and actually Pineapple Express. Right now, I was talking lovingly of it, but I had no interest in seeing it whatsoever. Really? I think the problem with not really, and I like the cast. I did like the cast, but I had no interest in seeing it because of what I knew it was about. But I was wondering, because we were talking about earlier, I'm just not a fan of stoner comedy, so I was wondering. Yeah, I think that they're really popular and they're really funny and people know. But I think this could be a topic for another show. I think a lot of these stoner movies are movies that people say they've seen, even though they actually haven't seen them. Because why the hell would someone watch How High unless they're into Wu-Tang Clan?
That's how I watched How High. But yeah, you do put you have a point with it. Why would a lot of people watch it? But I feel at least with the what is it, the I can't think of the name now. The Will Ferrell movies, the Todd Phillip movies, what were you saying?
Old school, that kind of shit.
Yeah, old school, Road Trip. These raunchy, sex-driven movies. They always offered some sort of drug uses, especially with big names like Will Ferrell, Seth Rogen. They kind of drive that kind of point to, especially Seth Rogen. But these are things that you're oh yeah, that's funny. And I think what we've had now in in the last 20 years, they've been smarter, I guess, with how they
it's just a really expertly done comedy. Well, and I won't say This Is the End is an expertly done comedy, but it is fucking funny. and it is well done. And for my mom is actually a huge fan of This Is the End, which I find kind of like hilarious, like for some of the content in that movie. But one movie that like sticks out in my mind that I'm like, oh, my mom and dad both fucking love that movie. And trust me, they're not flower children. They're definitely not that type of person. But it's Animal House, I think is like an iconic.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so well fucking done. The acting's really good. The story's funny no matter who you are. And that would be the one that. But I think that just bodes well for good comedies. You know, good comedies kind of just appeals to everybody, whether it be raunchy sex comedy is one thing, but college, it's just a bunch of young dumbasses being dumbasses, which is funny.
Yeah, and Animal House is like such a trend center. It kind of invented that entire. Well,
Correct.
The movie that really made me think of it just came out. It came out in the past few years, but really has big name actors in it. It's Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart. But American Ultra.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
I've
movie.
never seen it. Yeah,
You never seen it?
I have no interest in watching him.
It's not bad.
Like, considering the cast, I'm sure it's not. But I mean, I know what it's about, so I just, it doesn't appeal to me on that level. Like, I just don't want to watch it.
Like the what has a red mark for me. It was done by Max Landis.
Oh,
that was. Yeah, so I was like, that's what only I held off, and then one day I was like, you know what, I'll put it on the background, and it got my attention for like 90% of this film. And so I mean, it's not, all right, Stoner's a super spy, cool, like it's Jason Bourne, and it's a set, like it's just that, and the plot's kind of forgettable, but like if you're just want to have something on the background and want to have fun with a movie, this is that. It's just forget about Max Landis writing this movie.
I forgot what he did.
He's like a rapist or something.
Oh, that's right. He also did a documentary. He did a bunch of wrestling documentaries. That's like little shorts. That's what it was.
We've been talking a lot of shit about the Landis family lately. He directed Thriller. He gets the pass.
Every week, every Saturday, you can find us here. The rest of the week, you can go to adventuresinpoortaste.com, where you can find all our other podcasts. We have Talking Tauntauns, which is our Star Wars podcast. We have our comics podcast, and we have Poor Taste Wrestling. You can also catch up with reviews and articles we have on the site. Dagan mentioned Spike Spiegel. Rory Wilding wrote an article about why you should binge watch Cowboy Bebop right now. Also, Adventures in Movies is on YouTube. Check us out. And we have a spin-off show. It's Adventures in Movies looks at ... Last week we looked at Exorcist 3. This week we're going to be talking about a little movie called 499.
Spoiler alert, that movie is pretty great, in my opinion. While you guys are hitting and toking it up, because it's still April and you should be doing your part in doing drugs or not, you can follow us at Adventures in Movies on Twitter over at AAPT Movies, or you can follow us individually. You can find Nathaniel, or Pat as I like to call him, on Instagram at NathanPortTaste. You can find me, Danny, on Twitter and Instagram at default_player, and you can find Blake the Terrorizer?
Yeah, I like that one.
On Twitter over at Four-Eyed Horror.
That's right. And so just for kicks, we thought this would be fun. Next week, we're going to do movies that give you the munchies. Movies that make you hungry.
And you can check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can go to Spotify. You can go to the website and find our podcast and YouTube videos there. You can go to YouTube. Check us out there. Stitcher, you can't find a video, and I don't even know if you can find the podcast, but what the hell, if you have it, might as well give it a shot. So make sure to give us a rating. Tell a friend to listen. That's our cue. We'll talk to you next week.
Choke it up.
Adios.
I am Shaolin.